All right. I'm Siegfried Wifflebat.
And I'm Coffee Monster.
Okay. We got a lot of comments about Caught in the Trap. Some of them are kind of long, so we really should get right to it.
Roland Ledger says, worse than the Battle of Marston Moor, July 2nd, 1644. Wow.
I said it. I stand by it. Come fight me and change my mind. But don't, because I'm a wuss. I'm not a fighter.
It'll be like that scene from Life of Brian where he runs around the arena until you have a heart attack.
What is going to happen is you're going to humiliate yourself, because what you're going to do is you're going to be standing there looking all mean with your fists ready, and I'm going to be on the ground crying, don't, and you're just going to look like a horrible person for picking on a wuss. So there you go. Humiliate yourself at your own risk by coming to beat me up. I hear pad. Hi, Madelyne. What's up?
Can I say hi to him?
You can say hi to everybody, because that's what's going on right here. We're doing the Zoomcast.
It's lunchtime.
I know it's lunchtime. Madelyne's in Zoom school, and it's now lunchtime. And Madelyne's going to poke her head in and say something.
Hello, Madelyne.
This is everybody. Everybody's watching this right now.
Yeah, it's not just me. It's everybody.
Everybody who listens to the
This
podcast.
is my third pair of braces.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. You got anything else going on that you want to say before me and Eric get back to doing the thing? Try not to take over the whole Zoomcast, because...
I hope I get Juno the elephant for Christmas.
yeah.
And more LOL dolls and OMG dolls and more Barbies. And $1 million donated to the podcast.
See, you don't want to disappoint a little kid by not giving her everything she asked for. So
Because I'm half demon.
see, so you better make.
You better watch out.
You better make with $1 million.
Yeah, I usually think most children fit that description, so that's why I don't have any.
Okay. You want to close the door, please? Yep. Okay, and close the door. Okay. Thank you, Madelyne.
Yep, you heard her, though. You want to make it a Christmas miracle for Madelyne.
$1 million, because she's a
$1
demon.
million podcast.
Yep. All right. Each. That's good too. Okay. I don't know what she said. Door's closed. She's at the other end of the hall. Still talking to me. Anyway, Mark Jealous. I agree with Troy and Eric Winsenson that this is a catchy B-side. Not great, but pretty good. I think Jeff is taking from Del Shannon here, especially with the keyboard solo. I don't think it's worse than Battle of Marston Moor, but the argument could revolve around saying at least they were trying things there. Caught in a Trap can seem more like a knockoff tune, though one I rather like.
Trevor Raggett says, I guess for this one, I have to agree with both Erics to one degree or another. Yes, this is a catchy little throwaway 80s pop number, which could have knocked any of a number of tunes off the album playlisting. But is it bland? Well, I'll put it this way. I developed a bit of a ritual while listening to the podcast. Every time a new album starts, I make sure I listen through to the current podcast album at least a couple of times a week, even if it's one I've not really played in a while, just so that I'm used to all the songs which the Erics are going to chat about. Boy, are you lucky this isn't an Emerson, Lake and Palmer one. So I've definitely listened to Balance of Power more in the last 2 months than in the previous 10 years. And still, I've got no recollection of this song. Not a note or a word had lodged in my subconscious. And I suspect that once I stop humming the chorus today, it will slip away completely again, just like every song on Zoom. But that's for another week.
I sort of have the same ritual. In my little world at midnight, I listen to podcasts, and I make a playlist as if it's my radio station that I'm listening to, with news at the top of the hour. It's between midnight and 3. And then there are different shows that play. And on Monday nights, I download the latest episode of the podcast, the E.L.O. podcast, latest one that's posted to the world. And I will listen to that. And after that episode is over, on the playlist next is the song that we're talking about. So I listen to the podcast about Caught in a Trap, and then after that, Caught in a Trap plays. Yeah, I can't remember Caught in a Trap. All I remembered is I really didn't like it. And then once it was over, it's disappeared again. It's gone. There it goes. Until I have to listen to it again sometime. And then it's back. And then it goes away again. As for Zoom, how much longer we got? Probably another couple months, maybe. Yeah, definitely another couple months before we hit Zoom.
Yep. So then we'll be answering your questions about Zoom on Zoom.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yes, it'll be Zoom on Zoom. We'll have to work up some graphics and logos, maybe some music and some lower thirds underneath us, and some animation. Yeah. Oh,
I hear that's going to be a lot more creative than the album.
I'm saving it. No spoilers. Maybe I like it. Maybe I'm okay with it.
I have never heard it, so.
Well, there you go. Then you're in for a new E.L.O. experience.
Oh, no.
Don't. Okay. Alexander von Petersdorf. Alexander von Petersdorf. I have to disagree to some things said on the podcast. First of all, I really like Balance of Power, and I also like Caught in a Trap. I agree that Caught in a Trap is not the best song ever, and I understand why it became a B-side. Probably because it lacks melody in the verses. But I think it's not the worst E.L.O. song. That's still Marston Moore to me. And it's not even the worst B-side. I think that trophy goes to either Matter of Fact, both versions. I believe we cover that episode post next week. No, the week after. I think Destination Unknown is next week. Or Drum Dreams. Ooh, that's a bold statement.
Controversial.
Yeah. As for In for the Kill, I don't like the lyrics better. Yeah, I don't like the lyrics better, even though I see your point that it's not as generic as the final lyrics. But singing about kill and slaughter in an otherwise friendly pop song is kind of weird. So I understand why Jeff changed it. I really like what Jeff did with the drum sound on In for the Kill. It sounds to me like he replaced the drum computer sound with newly recorded drums, and he used the drum setup he had at the time, which was when Highway Companion was done. And I think that is a very nice drum sound. Much better than on the new albums, by the way. What really bugs me is when someone says, this is not E.L.O. anymore. E.L.O. always was and is what Jeff wants it to be. There is no way that something is not E.L.O. when it has Jeff in it. It's like when someone would say, what's the new Mary Jane is not the Beatles anymore, just because it doesn't sound like I want to hold your hand. It's something, I don't know. I kind of like the dark image against a poppy pop song. So that's why I didn't mind the lyrics of Slaughter and Kill mixed in there, hidden in there behind a bouncy little 80s pop song. I don't know what Highway Companion is. I meant to look that up.
That's a Tom Petty album.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's a Tom Petty, not too long ago.
Okay.
From the mid 2000s, somewhere around there.
Okay. Well, Petersdorf, I moved up. Alexander's comment set off a thread of conversation that is worth conversating about.
Yeah, I'll just stick in and say that dark lyrics to a pop song often ends up working, like Every Step You Take or Pumped Up Kicks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Nice little song about a guy shooting up a school.
That's behind that peppy little song. Oh, it was one of the few modern songs. Oh, I like that one. And then you kind of pay attention to it. It's like, oh, wow. That's almost like that's like Stagger Lee, which is just a little happy 60s. Yeah, that's really catchy. Then you start listening to it, and it's about somebody getting his guts blown out. And the lyric description is, includes that the bullet passes through the body and shoots behind and into the wall.
Yeah,
And
there's other versions of Stagger Lee that are a lot more graphic as
yeah,
well.
yeah, I know.
Nick Cave does about a 15-minute version of it, where he gets extremely into it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
Kevin Ricketts says, I see your point, and it's a fair one. However, I think what most people mean is that E.L.O. at their peak had a big symphonic sound with Lewis Clark, not to mention Kelly's contribution to the vocals and harmony. Their sound was unique, refreshing, and dare I say, revolutionary. When Jeff changed the sound by dropping much of the strings, cool futuristic sounds, and several players, the E.L.O. sound many of us fell in love with ceased to exist. He systematically deconstructed E.L.O. before our eyes in the 80s album by album. Times, things, and people change. Music changes too. I get it, but in my opinion, they changed for the worse, and E.L.O. became commercially insignificant toward the end because Jeff Lynne took them backwards by scaling down. That's why now the songs that hold up today that still sound great, the ones played in concerts, are the ones from the Kelly and Lewis era, when Jeff was more motivated on a grand scale. So for a lot of people, E.L.O. ceased to exist in the 80s. I think they are talking about the overall sound, the one that made them popular. But we all know E.L.O. is Jeff Lynne.
And Alexander replied back to him, as always, it's in the eye of the beholder. There are other fans around, including me, Alexander, not me, who love 80s ELO. Oh, no, that does include me. I do love 80s ELO. My favorite album is the Secret Messages double album. To hear somebody say that it is not really ELO anymore is not very nice for people who love that period. People love what they love and hate what they hate. I don't get upset about it too much. Okay, when it started out, ELO was not just a band name, it was a concept. The style changed from year to year, as it does with most bands, maybe except Status Quo. You put a smiley emoticon there. And the concept got less and less important. Then ELO was a band name and a brand, and not so much a concept anymore. But it was still ELO. There are many examples where bands changed their style or their personnel and lost, or gained, some fans along the way. But Genesis without Peter Gabriel was still Genesis in the 80s. So why can't it be ELO anymore?
Now you're opening up another box. Don't even want to start that with the Genesis fans.
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin Ricketts replies, don't disagree with you. I'm a guy who could listen to Jeff Lynne farting into a microphone. Just so I don't get certain people upset, I won't go back to Out of the Blue. I loved E.L.O. in the 80s too. I'm just trying to put some perspective on what those who made those comments really meant. I mean, it's obviously E.L.O. Even now it's E.L.O., although we all know it's more of a solo thing. And I appreciate having a sensible dialogue with an intelligent E.L.O. fan such as yourself. Oh my God, they're being nice to each other.
I know. And it was on Facebook too. That's
against the rules, isn't it? Isn't that 20 days
yes.
in Facebook jail for actually being polite to each other?
Yes, having a polite discussion without calling anybody names or saying that they're Hitler or something like that. That's not how Facebook works. You got to learn how to use it right, dumbass. That's
if I
how
remember,
use
this
it.
is when I had to come in and mention Hitler just to make sure that the conversation went the right way.
I think so, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just, and I'm not calling you a dumbass like meaning. I'm just showing you that's how Facebook works. You got to rile up the angry in people.
That's why we're starting our new base for the podcast on Parler.
Oh my God. I've heard about that. I've stayed away from it. I think
especially as it was supposed to be called Parlay, I think, at first. But then everybody joined Parler.
Yeah, that conversation brings up things that I'm not going to say them here because believe me, in my head, since we've started this podcast, that's something that's come up in my head. And we're going to hit those comments that will come out of my head not too much longer. And they do kind of echo and also describe, well, what is ELO? What do people mean when they say that's ELO? That doesn't sound like ELO. That's not ELO-y. So in time we'll get there because this is a long Zoomcast and we don't need to drag it out longer.
True.
Mike Hudson. I've always been on a fence as to whether this song should have replaced Send It on the album. Neither song is horrible, but neither is remarkable either. I prefer the Caught in a Trap version over the In for the Kill version. In for the Kill just sounds more like a demo than a completed song, even though I realize that the bulk of the instrumental track is exactly the same. People say it doesn't sound like E.L.O. Well, what exactly does E.L.O. sound like? On No Answer, E.L.O. was very raw sounding and more like a chamber orchestra. On E.L.O. 2, they were a little more proggy and heavier. On the album On the Third Day, they were beginning to merge prog and pop a little more, but the sound was getting a little more refined and polished. On El Dorado, Jeff learned how to put the sheen on an album, yet it still maintained a hint of rawness here and there. Then we have the golden period, Face the Music, A New World Record, and Out of the Blue, arguably the band's finest hours and my personal favorite period of ELO. Next comes Discovery. Okay, Jeff's going in a different direction, while still maintaining the strong string flourishes on most of the songs. Xanadu gives us half an ELO album, which is kind of a bridge between Discovery and the next album, Time, where ELO dips a foot into the new wave and electro pop pool. And I liked it a lot. I was hoping for more like this, to be honest, even though I preferred the Face the Music, A New World Record, Out of the Blue period better. I still wanted to hear more of what ELO could do with the electronics. Next, we get Secret Messages, and although the drums are a little disappointing, because Bev's been sidelined a lot on this one, it's not a bad album at all. No, it's not. Even if the strings are mostly gone on it. And finally, Balance of Power. Not that great of an album, but not as bad as I had remembered. It's got several pretty good tracks, a couple of pretty lame tracks, and the rest are a couple that are just kinda, whatever. I'm not even going to go beyond Balance of Power because it was supposed to be the last ELO album. But there really is no ELO sound. If you look over the history of their discography, ELO has been an ever-changing band. So with that said, I can say that Caught in a Trap, In for the Kill, sounds as much like an ELO song as any. No, it doesn't sound like anything like that classic middle period, but again, look at what came before and after that period. When I got the Calling America single and played the B-side, was I disappointed? Yeah, I think a little. I think I felt like Jeff really wasn't trying so much on this one. I would have loved to have heard something a little more inspired, but it is what it is. I still maintain that Secret Messages should have been released originally as a double album and should have been the final album with Hello My Old Friend closing out the ELO catalog. No, that episode hasn't posted yet, so I won't say anything about Hello My Old Friend. It would have been a lot more honorable period at the end of the ELO sentence. Some of you may say, well, what about the good songs that appear on Balance of Power? Would you have preferred they never existed? My answer is no. I wouldn't have wanted them to not exist. But they could have replaced some of the weaker tracks on Armchair Theater, primarily the 3 cover songs that are on that album. I could have certainly done without those in favor of some good Jeff Lynne written songs. I don't know, I like the cover versions. All this being said, I do like the keyboard solo in Caught in a Trap. The rest of the song, it's one of those, whatever type songs.
Well, that's about what we and that about sums up a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna go, I wrote all that and that's all you're gonna say?
Yes, because some of what you say is covered in the bonus tracks episode, which will come out at the end of the month. So that's why what's all we're going to say about that right now.
Okay. Sam DeMilt says, I like both In for the Kill / Caught in a Trap. They sound like they could have been on an episode of Knight Rider.
Yeah, they do.
Not exactly a recommendation. I
Yeah.
tried watching Knight Rider, an episode of Knight Rider recently
Hmm.
as an adult.
Does it still hold up?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. No, if you like Knight Rider, that's great. There's some TV shows that
Yes.
I like that a lot of people will say, "What is wrong with you? That show is awful." Um, I'm not going to knock Knight Rider too much. It didn't do anything for me. I watched a couple episodes back in '83 or '84, and I thought, okay, sure, but you know. And as for it sounding like music from that episode, or like Knight Rider, that's probably another reason why I've never
Knight
watched it.
Rider always had a heavy electronic
Yeah,
based soundtrack.
yeah.
Yeah, but no, still like the car.
Car was
However,
cool.
the car
Yeah,
tours. So you can always go see Kit someplace without having to actually sit through David Hasselhoff's acting.
yeah, yeah. No, the car was pretty freaking cool. So yeah.
Even though
Tracer
David
Ant.
Hasselhoff was pretty good in Star Crash.
Tracer Ant. Wait, what was that?
What?
What did you say?
I said David Hasselhoff was pretty good in Star Crash.
Is that the one where they had the cardboard lightsabers that lit up when they pointed the light at them?
Uh Possibly. It's an Italian movie. Hasselhoff, it's one of his first roles. He plays the son of the emperor
Yeah.
of the galaxy.
Yeah, I
But
saw
what
that.
people remember it for is Carolyn Monroe
Yeah, I
in a
saw that.
bikini
I saw that on Mystery
almost
Science.
throughout the entire movie.
Right. I saw that on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Yeah. That was a
Yeah,
bad. That was a
I still
laughably
enjoy the
bad
film.
movie. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a laughably bad movie, but it's actually a fun bad movie, and it's got Carolyn Monroe in
Yeah.
a bikini throughout the entire film.
Right. Tracer Anthony. Caught in a Trap would join Buildings Have Eyes, Julie Don't Live Here Anymore, When Time Stood Still, Mandalay, The Bouncer, and Surrender on my imaginary greatest B-side hits for E.L.O. A catchy and driven tune with an effective hook. Caught in a Trap also features a sound that would not have seemed too far out of place with the Time album, in my opinion. Yes, in your opinion. But with that said, its precursor, In for the Kill, has some of the more awkward lyrics for a Jeff Lynne Penn song. I'm sorry, but the word slaughter has no business ever appearing in an E.L.O. song. I can't help but notice in your greatest B hits you left out Drum Dreams. Anyway, we'll move on from that.
Yeah, well, in that case, they're not going to like the bonus track "Murder Your Family," are they?
Not going to go down well, especially since it was a Christmas song, or supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
G. Brewer says, I have always loved this song. I cannot believe it was left off the original album. In for the Kill is good as well, but I do prefer the original. On a side note, I am kind of troubled that any E.L.O. fan has never heard of this song or only heard it for the first time at the time of the podcast recording. Then to hear that any E.L.O. fan has not heard much of the music after this is just preposterous. I am confused about this. Well, that's because I never claimed to be a big E.L.O. fan.
Well, also it was a B-side, and it didn't, get released on CD until the bonus, the special edition came out like 21 years later. I don't think you can find it on Spotify. I didn't really look. I think YouTube's the only place you can find it. So it's not really, you know, in heavy rotation in the ELO discography. And also, I think it's sort of like, at least early in the Next Generation era, Star Trek was the TV show, the 60s one. That was the one that had all the toys. That was the one that had all the references. Even though the movies were out and people loved 2 and 4, um, people love 6, but that's, you know, Star Trek: The Next
That was later.
Generation had found its place and stood out on its own and wasn't just, oh my God, Star Trek: The Next Generation. But in that time, it seemed like all the toys were geared towards the original series. The next generation kind of just pretended like the movies never happened. So I think that's kind of what sort of the post ELO period is after 1986, because it's like ELO 70s, hold on tight, that's the ELO thing, and then all this, that's the thing that's like overshadowing all the ELO stuff that came after that. So that's why people are going to be like, wait, ELO put out albums after 1986? Oh, well, I never heard All Right, or now my head's blanking out on other Zoom tracks, and I can't even tell you the songs that are on the last two ELO albums, other than When I Was a Boy and Ain't It a Drag, and From Out of Nowhere. So, which, spoiler alert, should tell you how well those albums stuck with me.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the end. Only 3 more comments left, and they're not too horribly long. Oh, it's me, MJ
Yeah,
Folds.
it is you.
MJ Folds. Just caught the latest episode. Caught in a Trap is quite a dreary little song. Little eerie, too. I think I prefer In for the Kill, as I like the words better. Sounds a little better, too. Unlike EPJ, I don't hate the song and will happily let it play if I am playing the 2007 reissue. But I am not going to add it to my playlist on purpose. Having said that, a voice in my head now wants me to listen to the song. Clearly the voice hates me. Yeah. Okay, off to YouTube. The CD is too far away. Here goes nothing. I think nothing is an accurate description of Caught in a Trap, so yeah.
Corey Gomel says, I don't know why you have to replace songs on E.L.O. albums for another. E.L.O. LPs always seem short to me. Caught in a Trap could have just been added to the LP. I remember feeling a little ripped off when Discovery only had 9 songs on the LP. They were a good 9, but only 9. The chorus to Caught in a Trap seems like Jeff phoned it in, much more than Bouncer. I agree the song as a whole is not that exciting. But I still like the song. It's still just voice. Richard sounds like he's having a fun time on the keyboards. It's no Bohemian Rhapsody, but it was a B-side and better than Who's That? What do you want for nothing? Rubber biscuit? Actually, try that again. Rubber biscuit? There we go.
Go to Cameo and pay Dan Aykroyd about $300 to do that for us. Yeah, I felt ripped off when camera's over here. Don't look at myself over here. Talking to Corey now. Yeah, I felt kind of ripped off when I bought Electric Light Orchestra 2, the album, not part 2, and Face the Music. Yeah, I love the albums, but I'm like, 5 songs, 8 songs. It is what it is, but they were good, other than Down Hometown, but I'll let it slide. Oh, we're down to the last comment, and this is me, even though it's Mark W, because this was going to be on the bonus tracks episode, but I was like, why bother with the extra production for it? So we'll stick it here. Aaron Jansen, and he wrote this on our YouTube channel, the Electric Light Orchestra podcast channel on YouTube, which is where this video ends up, and all the episodes are there. Aaron Jansen, pretty forgettable song apart from the intro. Even though I couldn't remember the intro until I played it again for the podcast.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. We're done. That was long. Remember what Madelyne said. Do not crush the hopes and dreams of an adorable 9-year-old girl. You will not be able to live with yourself. So make sure you PayPal, ELOFTMpodcast@gmail.com is the the PayPal address to use when you're donating that $1 million to the podcast.
Keep in mind, she already found out this year there's no Santa, so she doesn't need any more trauma.
Yeah. And don't blame that on me either. I wanted to keep that Santa thing alive until she was well into her 50s. So, all right, we wrap this up. All right, later next week.
Yep.